So, man, I think those two are literally like brothers and sisters, meaning strength and conditioning and jiu-jitsu. I don't know if there's anything better as a combination, right? I mean, what do you notice the most, the benefits that you get out of it when you are competing? Is it durability? Is it, stamina? What's the best attribute that you get from doing strength and conditioning and training it?
Okay. Yeah. I'll speak from like my experience with what's happened in my own life, and then also like with the athletes that I've seen.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So with my own life, like I started getting into lifting when I was like probably like 11 or 12 years old. My dad, we always had like a gym basement, like a gym in our basement rather. And, so I would always like be on the weights doing all these things. I would read his men's health magazines and like do the workouts in there
and
to
Playboy.
like get prepared for wrestling. Oh, those were there too.
Those were there.
Those
you know what I mean?
as well. Yeah, he didn't have a great hiding spot.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man.
No, man, that was good. That was good. And so that's kind of like I started falling in love with fitness like pretty early age. I always knew it was important for wrestling. So I've always had that distinction like in my head. Like
did you
from a
wrestle?
very young age. Yeah, I did wrestle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I started wrestling when I was like 11 years old.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll get into that and then go on with your story. Yeah,
for sure.
With your dad in the basement. Yeah.
Lifting with my dad in the basement. And then when I started getting close to high school, the wrestling coach had us lifting. And then we would lift like every summer, like pretty hard, just like traditional, like bodybuilding style training, kind of typical of how most people get started. And it was a lot of fun. And so I always really enjoyed it. And then towards the end of high school, I started taking lifting like pretty seriously. And then, so I've had this idea for a while, and I know for myself, I can tell the difference in my strength between others just based off of how long I've been doing it. And as we know, a lot of jiu-jitsu is like pretty slow and static, right? So
yes,
if you're strong in jiu-jitsu, no matter what anybody says, it's going to help you.
Isn't that shit crazy? Like, I know I've talked about this in other podcasts, but then, in jiu-jitsu, it's almost as marketed as, what's great about jiu-jitsu? Like smaller guys can take on bigger guys.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, if that bigger guy has the fucking strength of a wildebeest, and all of a sudden he's going with a smaller guy with the same strength and they both have the same like skill sets. Like I know it's different, but let's hypothetically say they're even kill. Who do you think is going to win most of the time? If they had the same skill, same style.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like played at an even playing level. Not like you're using leverage, which is, kind of ironic because that's what jiu-jitsu is about.
Yeah.
That's the point.
For sure.
But then, no, seriously, it's like, okay, if you got Gordon Ryan's ass on you, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of, whatever, steroids, whatever. And he's that big and he's that strong. And then with the same skills, like, come on,
You're
dude.
cooked.
You're cooked.
You're cooked.
Yeah. But sorry, go ahead.
You're good, man. So, just speaking from my own experience, I've always had it as an advantage. I've had people tell me throughout wrestling and throughout jiu-jitsu, like, you're so strong, you know what I mean? I know I'm in good shape because I put in the work in the gym to do so. And, it doesn't have to be that complicated. And for a lot of the athletes that I've worked with, most of them, especially in jiu-jitsu, don't have like a traditional weight room kind of training.
Yeah,
right?
man.
Because unless you're coming from a wrestling background, most of the time people who start jiu-jitsu don't have like an athletic background. Or, I mean, they might, but like a lot of people don't. Because again, what's the main message? Like a smaller,
that's so true,
much
man.
unathletic person can, you know what I mean? It goes back to it. It feeds into it that way.
And also there's there's this thing, I don't know if it's a thing now, but it's quote unquote jiu-jitsu nerds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they smoke weed, and there's nothing wrong with smoking weed.
No.
I'm just saying they're just kind of like, they're literally nerds that grew up and then they're taking jiu-jitsu and then they get all into it, which is great. Like it's an outlet and that's what they should be doing it for. Yeah. But you know what I mean? They get all like nerdy about it.
And that is how 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu was founded.
Yes, exactly.
You know
that's also like a cliche now, right?
It is, yes.
It's like, oh yeah, they get all technical with it, which again, I'm just making fun of it, but it's a great thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
100%.
But yeah, man. Yeah. So you were saying that. Your strength. Athletes. Yeah. Oh yeah. We were talking about, man, that's so fascinating. And I'm so fascinated by that subject that I'm glad you brought it up because you're right, man. I have a lot of people that come in here. Like I said, I played football and basketball. I mean, I'm 5'5", but had dreams to make it to the NBA.
Let's go.
Yeah, I thought, I was going to be the next Muggsy Bogues or something. At 5'3",
why not you?
5'4", why not me, bro? But a lot of athletes, including me, like growing up, that played sports, dude, this is probably an obvious statement, but it translates well into martial arts just because of eye handle coordination alone.
Yeah.
You know, and strength, obviously, right? If you play football or if you weightlifted or wrestled, I mean, come on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings up like a great point, which is like a pretty overarching idea. If we're talking about like jiu-jitsu strength and conditioning specifically, which is a little bit different from MMA, but every sport is different. But in jiu-jitsu specifically, that's why it's really beneficial for a lot of these jiu-jitsu hobbyists or jiu-jitsu competitors to do their strength and conditioning and take it seriously, right? So that they can close that gap just a little bit between the people who have been doing jiu-jitsu for a long time or whatever the case may be. If someone has that much better technique than you're new to the sport, but you also have this other component where you're taking your resistance training and cardio or aerobic work seriously, and you come in and you're in shape and you can learn and adapt quickly, then you're going to close that gap between people who either aren't taking it seriously or haven't for as long. You know what I mean? So it's just another benefit that way as well.
Yeah, that's true, man. I mean, any attribute counts.
Yeah.
Hand-eye coordination, like I said, and the strength aspect of it. I think in jiu-jitsu, again, it's more underrated just because, that smaller guy thing, you could beat someone that's, bigger than you.
Yeah.
So that's what it's like, utilize that. But yeah, man, like I noticed that even say if you're passing guard, right? A lot of people have two left feet.
Yeah.
Like they trip over themselves.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't start noticing that till probably years into my jiu-jitsu. I'm like, oh, I can kind of be light on my feet. I'm not flat-footed because of the sports that I played, right? And I picked that up right away.
Yeah.
So I think it's just such a interesting dynamic. So yeah, man, get back into your. So you started when you were a kid, so you've always had that like kind of like weightlifting, strength and conditioning background,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
And then did your dad make you wrestle? Did you wrestle in high school? Was it?
So I started wrestling when I was 11. So I wrestled starting in like 6th grade, I think. So
Competitively?
5th or 6th grade. Yes.
Really?
Yeah, competitively.
Wow. What got you into it, man?
The UFC.
No way. Oh,
Yeah.
well,
When
yeah.
I was a kid, I was watching the UFC and, wrestlers were dominating the sport. So like, I was like, if you want to be in the UFC, if you want to be an MMA fighter, you got to wrestle. So that's literally why I started wrestling.
You know what's so interesting about that? You said you're 28, right?
Yeah.
It's because I'll talk to like older folks and then they usually get into MMA or jiu-jitsu because of jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
right? Because of Hoyler.
Yeah.
Right? Because they were like, oh my God, the small guy thing, And the thing is that you said wrestling. That's actually the first time I've ever heard that.
Really?
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
But I think it's like since the UFC evolved and then wrestling arguably is the most dominant combat sport in the game. I mean, I've had elite athletes come in here that does MMA and they could argue you need wrestling takedown or some sort of wrestling. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If you don't want to offensively wrestle in your fights, you got to be able to defensively wrestle because someone's going to want to offensively wrestle you and only do that sometimes,
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. People have different fighting styles. You got to be ready for everything. So wrestling determines whether or not you get put on the ground. If your fence wrestling isn't good, if you're not good in the clinch, if you're not good from open space, wrestling wise, like if you're not solid there, you're at a high level, you're cooked for sure.
What kind of wrestling did you do?
So I grew up here in America, so like folk style wrestling. Folk style is like the collegiate, type of wrestling, the one that everybody does growing up.
Yeah.
Freestyle and Greco are the international styles of wrestling.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And those typically in America, they're done in like your off season. Unless you're, top 5% and you're one of the like best kids in the nation, then you're probably already looking at the Olympics. So you're probably training that year round.
Wait, say that again? If you're top 5%.
I just threw out the number top.
No. I like it. I like it. It's just, I was trying to process it.
Yeah. So wrestling is, a huge sport. It's still like relatively small compared to like football and stuff like that, right? But wrestling's huge, especially like back where I'm from in Ohio and the Midwest in general.
Yeah, I
like
bet.
massive sport, and it's getting big everywhere. And even women's wrestling is like growing like crazy right now. With that being said, it's very competitive, right? So, like I wasn't even top several hundred probably recruits in my like graduating class, you know what I mean? And I was still a pretty competitive wrestler.
Sure.
So I'm saying those kids who are like towards the top and they're in high school, especially these days, they're like already training that freestyle and Greco all year round because they actually have a chance at making the Olympic team when they're that young.
Yeah,
so
bro.
When I was growing up, like that was very rare. Nowadays it's becoming more and more popular, and it's smart, right? Because the rest of the world, they do freestyle and Greco all year round, you know, and these are the guys in countries, different countries that we have to compete against and beat if we want to win the Olympics.